She keeps banging the questions out. And there's this
If
thing
we
that
live in a
people
world
fear.
of platonic forms that are being biologically manifest, and evolution is, you described it as being something that makes problem solving machines. Do you have a sense of your own role in that, as like what is the platonic form of the problem that you see yourself as solving?
Yeah. So
She threw his own theory back on him. So you think we just problem solving machines that come out of this existence, consciousness. So what is your problem? Who are you? She basically asking you the old Buddhist, the old Hinduism question: Who am I? That's basically what she just asked.
so this is just my phenomenology of it. I don't know because I'm not able to do experiments, controlled experiments on the scale of life and science and all of that, right? So I don't know if any of this has any truth to it. This is just how I feel. Um, yeah, it certainly feels to me like I'm discovering, not inventing, and that the people in my lab, we are we are uncovering something. I don't know if they would agree, by the way, but me personally, everything that we've done over the decades, I feel like we're unearthing something that already existed and that has a particular structure to it. We don't make it up. We find it, and we kind of we can do better or worse at figuring out what it is and how to relate to it and how to bring it out into the world. That's how it feels to me. I don't know that any of that is true, but
Of course, that's true. There's no such thing as invention, only discovery, as I said before.
um, yeah, and I also think that. So here's another kind of wacky thing, and I've told this to some of my students. Um, I also feel like some of that stuff is under positive pressure. In other words, it wants to come out. In other words, it's there for you to like when you poke that little hole into that platonic space by making a bot or some kind of new technology, stuff comes rushing through that hole. And I really feel like, again, this is very non-scientific. I'm just telling you how it feels to me. Um, that's what we do. We figure out ways to kind of put a crack in that boundary, and then stuff starts pouring through the.
Tearing through the fabric of this information, extracting the information from the fabric of the universe, in a sense.
Boundary. You don't have to pull it out. If you make the if you make that barrier porous, it comes out. I think it's under pressure. It whatever you create in this world, it will pull patterns that are there.
And is that how you approach your own goal orientation in your science? Like, we're starting a new year here, and it's almost like if it's a miracle year for you, what would it look like? But I sense that it's almost like you see it as just chasing that
Positive pressure.
that positive pressure. Yeah, you're sort of flowing with it. Do you set that sort of objective bar for yourself when you look out onto the immediate future as a scientist, or are you just kind of going with the muse?
Well, I definitely think there's a muse, no doubt about that. But I also think that the space of possible things to chase after is infinite, and so I actually like on the spectrum. In some labs, you sort of show up, and whatever you do, as long as you discover something cool, everybody's happy with it. But I'm on the other spectrum, so I have a very specific research agenda. I would like everybody who joins hired in my lab. We're all working on very specific things where I know what I want to come out of this. And that's not to say that I'm defining it, like designing any of these things. It's just that there are many different things, that different muses that one could tune into, and I have one particular one that I'm sort of flowing with, and that means being very thoughtful about what are the channels through which these findings will hopefully flow. The center, I've got a mind map that hangs in our lab, and it's like this giant poster that we put like 9 feet wide that we printed on silk, and the center of the mind map is called embodied mind. That's the center. So it's all the different ways and, all the different questions and things that we're doing, and then different people's specific projects are sort of peppered around the leaves of that graph. And so that everybody can see where they kind of plug into this, but it's very specific and it's very curated.
It's a beautiful world that you're.
You ain't explained to us though. I know you said you want to fully program the nanobots and xenobots. Well, what is your specific goals here? Is that it? Just program it and to make billions of dollars into medical research? What is your true agenda? I might do some research on you, Dr. Michael Levin. We gotta keep our eye on our scientists, for good and for bad.
You're building. I really think that when I think I've told you this before, that when I went to go study biology, I imagined that it would be the study of what is life. And I very quickly realized that it was much more mechanistic and much more molecular than that in most cases. And one of the reasons that we started this podcast was because I was certain that there were people out there who were asking the larger questions of the significance and pushing the boundaries of what it meant to understand bodies and life itself, because it does seem to be a very weird center of the universe. And obviously that's like a very, Earth-centric or human-centric perspective, but there is something that is, there's a motive force of life, which is the solving of problems. And the universe seems full of problems to solve. And so figuring out the process by which we can do that in novel ways seems to me to be the passage into something that is greater than the past. Because at every single juncture where humans have run into problems, the way that we have solved them is by figuring out technological approaches to resolving what has happened. And obviously that creates downstream problems, like you look at the Green Revolution or something. We have solved the problem of mass starvation, but now we have phosphate runoff and pollution of waters, and now we have so many people that we don't have regenerative agriculture that prevents us from just decimating animal life on the planet. And I think that the passage into the next era is the passage of understanding our biology much better than we ever have before. And I think that your work is really, really at the center of this. And I'm grateful to have met you and to know that someone is doing this. It's really, it gives me a lot of hope for the future.
Yeah, it does for me too. Until we really know the agenda behind Dr. Michael Levin. He said he has a specific one. Yeah, I don't amuse. Is it amusement is to be God and dominate the world? Now, I'm not going to view him as this mad scientist or nothing like that. But he did skim over the part where he said there's some philosophical questions about it, but he didn't get into it. So I'm wondering, before we give him his flowers.
Future.
Well, thank you so much. That's one of the things I'm happiest about is when people get hope from some of the things I say. This is maybe a good time to point out that it obviously isn't just me. So in addition to the people in my lab that do a lot of the hard work, it's also I have some amazing collaborators that have been pulled together. Some of whom you may want to have on. So people like Richard Watson and and Chris Fields and Mark Solms and some other folks. They really make a lot of this possible because these are some of the things I say, these ideas have been around for a really long time, but they've gotten no traction because there's a huge difference between saying something and pushing it to the point where it actually generates new discoveries. And until you do that second thing, it doesn't move the needle, and that's the really hard part. And so there have been a lot of people that I've worked with that have enabled some of that to happen. And I think what you're saying is super important in the sense of understanding life beyond kind of the lowest levels of it, meaning the mechanistic molecular stuff is critical. It's going to be important for us going into the whatever the future of humanity is. The one thing I want to say though is people get hyper fixated when they hear life, people get hyper fixated on the material and on how it gets here. So the biological wet cytoplasmy stuff and the products of evolution. And I just want to say that I think life and that kind of focus on what's important is really critical, but we have to remember the protoplasm isn't magic and it isn't unique, and the meandering course of the evolutionary process is not the only way that mind enters this world. And we have to get broader than a focus on the easy stuff, which is the material. It's really easy to say, "Oh, you're made of silicon. Yeah, you're not real. You're just faking it." And really, the hard work that we have to do as a species is to get beyond those kind of superficial criteria and to really say, what do we really mean by I don't know about life. You can keep life what it is, but cognition, I think, goes way beyond the living world, and we have to understand. We have to develop rigorous frameworks of recognizing it in novel guises that we wouldn't necessarily say are alive.
And I think that this next year is going to be really interesting to see what happens, because I feel like we're approaching that question in a massive way technologically.
Yeah, we are. I'm really disappointed about how narrow that debate has been and the hyper focus on language models and the kind of AIs that we have today and the things, the people just get so focused on these examples, and the broader lessons of the field of diverse intelligence haven't even been scratched yet. Everybody.
I understand that, Dr. Levin, but I really believe the language models and the AI is the key to your convincing these cells, these anthobots, these xenobots, to build what you want them to build. Because all you have to do is ask them. Remember, if you really understand that they're intelligent living beings, then communicate with them. That's all that needs to be done.